So I guess just for those of my audience or whoever might be listening who don't know you or they haven't heard of you, can you just give me like a little bit of your League of Legends history, a little bit of who you are, just as a generality?
Yeah, so I've been playing League since I was like, season three, off and on. My brother, he loved the game, so he got me kind of into it. I was never really good at the game. I was stuck silver, gold. I climbed my ranks all the way up till Challenger and around season nine. So, it took me a long time, a lot of years. After hitting Challenger, I, decided, hey, maybe I could go pro. And from there, there was an event called Scouting Grounds. I got invited there. I won the event there. I got on Evil Genius Prodigies, playing, semi-pro. Eventually, I got an opportunity to play on Dignitas Academy, and we had a really amazing run. After that, the last year, I've been playing on Fear, and we've also had pretty good runs this year. But yeah, all that's led me to, just being challenger, trying to go pro, and like, really just the reason why I'm here is because I wanted to beat my brother's friends and my brother, um, and that drove me all the way to somehow becoming a pro. But
There you go. So
that's where
I
it
think
began.
I think you beat them, right?
Yeah.
um, so tell me, because that's like a really impressive resume. Obviously, like such a small amount of people will ever get to experience what it's like to play at such a high level. But even before your time playing League, what were some of the big games that you played growing up before you got into League of Legends?
I mean, for me, I spent a lot of my time on Minecraft. And
Classic.
otherwise, it would be like younger games. I don't know if you know of Toontown.
I've heard of it.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, like just like smaller games like that. But really, what I would play at the end of the day was just like some variation of Minecraft or League of Legends. And every now and then, games on the DS and the Game Boy, I like Pokemon games and whatnot. But most of my time was Minecraft or League.
Yeah. Okay. You and I aren't so different then. Um, And so, what is actually your peak rank in league? So obviously you've been challenger, you've been a pro, but what is your peak rank? Do you know?
I believe at some point it was 30 something. I think right now I'm ranked like let me check real quick. I'm ranked 105. Like
Okay.
the LP changes. I feel like nowadays the rank matters less. Your peak. I feel like anyone could hit top 100 if you've been a challenger player. Whereas in the past, when I hit my peak 2 years ago, 3 years ago, um, that's where like LP wasn't inflated. So I feel like that's just how I see
Right.
like rank and LP right now. So
And Riot's kind of discussing. I've seen where in season 14 we might have even more inflated LP gains, which
right.
so might devalue that a little bit more. Is that what I'm hearing from you?
That's how I see it. I mean, there's a lot of people that I've seen that like who are these guys? Or like, oh, I remember these guys. They were like grandmaster masters. They were never really good players. How are they here? How are they higher ranked than all these other like long-term existing challenger players? It's like really confusing to me sometimes, but at the end of the day, like maybe they improved or I have a strong feeling it has to do with LP a lot of the time. LP and MMR and just playing games, spamming games.
Right. Okay. So tell me as well. You kind of gave us like a bit of an overview of how you became a pro. Like basically, you hit challenger, you went to proving grounds. But can you share a bit of more detail on like what that process actually looked like for you? Maybe we could focus on proving grounds itself a little bit. Um, so as a challenger player, like what happens? Does Riot reach out to you? Do teams reach out to you? How do you get invited to that type of thing? And then once you're invited, what is the process of actually going through that?
So right, so there was this event. It's actually called Scouting Grounds 2021. It was the last Scouting Grounds of its like of League of Legends. Right, decided to completely cancel that event. But pretty much the top players in the solo queue ladder and in the amateur like ladder, the top two teams. So two players from solo queue, two players from amateur. They would play against each other in a little tournament. So there's four teams total. What would happen was Riot would like send you the invitations if you qualify, and pretty much you had to be like the top in the solo queue ladder. So that's where I hit my peak. I collected enough points to qualify amongst the other challenger players, obviously excluding other current pros. So it was just like pure solo queue players. Um, but the event is no longer like existing anymore, Scouting Grounds. But that's how it happened before, and that's where like I kind of began. Um, that was like the biggest like moment for me trying to make it to scouting grounds and qualify for it. But even during that year, it was a lot of like reaching out to like really small orgs entering the League of Legends amateur space. Back in 2021, it was like really small. There wasn't much going on. You would not see many amateur teams, and realistically, the jump from an amateur like level team to a academy level team was so big that it would literally be impossible to jump from an amateur to academy. Nowadays, the gap has seriously closed, and an amateur team can easily beat an academy team. Um, but for me at the time in 2021, it was just all about grinding, getting the mindset, improving, um, and making it to scouting grounds. And once I was at scouting grounds, it was really just you know being the best I could be. And I had no faith that I would win or even do that great, but we won, and it was like not even a close win. Like we stomped the enemies.
Right. I
So
mean, that sounds like a really nerve wracking experience. Would you say that like do you feel a ton of pressure on yourself during that tournament itself?
yeah, so pretty much like I would compare to the like earlier in 2021. Like this is like November the event. I played in smaller tournaments, like amateur tournaments, and they were never near as stressful as the Scouting Grounds event. Pretty much Riot hosts it, and they tell you like a schedule. They want you to be up at a specific time. It's blocked out. I think it was like like 10:30 or 11 to like 6 or 7. It's like you're blocked out for the day, almost as if it's an academy schedule or like an actual pro schedule, which that is what it is. You wake up, you go to work, and you're there for 5, 6, 7 hours. um, and it was intense. Like lots of practice. Like it felt like actual competition. And yeah, it was like so stressful every day. I'm coming back into talking to my friends and being like, holy crap, like this is like so tiring. It's so exhausting. It's so scary. I'm so anxious. It was
Yeah.
definitely a nerve wracking event.
I mean, I can only imagine. For like some of the people that'll be watching this will know me. I played hockey at a very high level, and so I can relate in the sense that it's like the first moment where you walk into a situation where you realize it's professional. Like it feels like, okay,
Right.
this is an adult thing. It could be a job even. It's a really
Right.
strange feeling, right? Yeah.
That's exactly what it was. And it was also like seeing the well big guys, I guess. Like these are the other, you know, talent in NA. These are the other people who like stomp the amateur like league, and they're here now to go further. It was super intimidating. So
Okay, well, thanks for sharing some of that. So, I guess I will talk about your solo queue experience a little bit more. Or I'll ask you about it a little bit more in a minute. But maybe could you share like some of your maybe a highlight or two of your time as a professional player so far, and maybe like one or two low moments?
yeah, so I mean I have the fondest memories when I ended up going on Dig, but I guess just as a pro, um, grinding this like Champions Queue when it was out was a seriously like big step for me. I went from 2022 not playing a single like game, like maybe like 10 games of Champions Queue, to around like in the middle of the year, I was playing like almost the most amount in out of all the Champions Queue players. And just like beating the pros, like being able to compete and like showing myself off. I had a lot of great like events, clips, experiences like playing Champs Queue, and the best part is like I was not supposed to be on Dignitas Academy. What happened was I actually got subbed in during their like right before their playoffs. So I woke up one day and you know, someone called my brother called my mom called my girlfriend's mom, and then eventually, like, it eventually got to me, but it was not even that late in the morning. It was like 10 a.m. But they needed it to happen like right away. So I got on call, I was there, and I was like, holy crap, this is academy, or this is an academy offer, and
Mm.
this is the middle of their academy split. They just finished the regular season, or they were about to finish, and playoffs was about to start. So I was fully expecting, just to chill out for the rest of the year and, try my absolute hardest the next year. And boom, I wake up and I'm like, I have a full academy spot now. Um, that was like one of the craziest
Wow.
moments for me. And then going to work at Dignitas, the office, the setting, the meeting the people, it was like crazy. My team was full of
Mm.
veterans, but the experiences was were amazing. I got to meet an amazing coach, and really like the difference between playing with your teammates online and seeing them in person is so big that coming after Dignitas, when I couldn't end up finding an academy team, my next team on Fear, like I hard vouched that we really need to stay together in the same house. We need to have a gaming house, and we did. And from there, the same thing. So many memories, so many happy experiences. I mean, there's times where we lose hard and we have like a 2 hour discussion of what happened, or like we beat a team we shouldn't have beat, and it's like the most amazing experience. And the only way you can get these experiences is by seeing your teammates in person, by being together. Um,
Yeah.
I feel like one of the like best experiences recently was um I for our most recent uh playoffs for Fear in the summer, we went to Cleveland all together as a team, Cleveland, Ohio, to boot camp for our playoffs. So we placed third seed or something, and
Hmm.
we ended up all meeting together again, the same, like almost the exact same roster, and we played all together in the same setting, and it was just like, again, it's just so amazing.
That's really really cool. I mean, I think one of the things, for anyone that has experienced something at a high level like this, the organization that you're a part of makes up a huge. It's a huge determining factor in how your experience actually goes, right? Your teammates, how the org treats you, any like just the day to day lifestyle, the schedule, all of that stuff goes into it. So what I'm hearing from you is like the people were a big part of that. So maybe a line of questioning I have off that is, um, did you meet anyone on the LCS roster in Dignitas? And if so, how was your experience with them?
Oh yeah, I was able to meet every single one of them. I was able to like eat at the same table as them. We talked every now and then. I would be able to go into the rooms, see what's going on. They would come visit us, the coach as well. Like, um, pretty much on any academy LCS team, you're both of those teams are pretty friendly. For the most part, they like each other. They play against each other, and um, the academy team always competes to try and beat the LCS players to
Mm-hmm.
take their spot. Um, so it's really like a nice friendly situation. But I will say, at the end of the day, what makes the org as good as it is nowadays is the players and the staff itself. Um,
Right.
Most of the time, the org doesn't have much to do with it. Um,
Okay. So
I
so it's more
Yeah,
the everyday people that you're interacting with.
yeah, for sure.
Okay. Well,
And
that's really really cool. Sorry. Continue.
oh, I was just gonna say, I know you mentioned some like bad experiences, and I have one from Dignitas. I came in as a rookie. I had no academy experience. I was only a champs queue grinder. I wasn't even playing the regular split with the guys. So boom, we formed an entirely new roster. Our top lane got switched out as well, and so did our ADC. So like now it's top jungle and ADC coming in, and the entire roster is new, and we're going into playoffs. Pretty much, I was under way more pressure than I was at scouting grounds, and on top of that, I had a teammate who um wasn't that happy from time to time when my with my performances. Um, I could say that a lot of my teammates weren't necessarily happy with my performance. At least within the first like week, a few weeks of practice, I was getting a lot of like, you know, flame. I'm playing bad and I shouldn't be doing these things. Um, Eventually, it like helped me and it helped me improve, but it was seriously like a hard thing to go through. And luckily for me, I had a really understanding coach, and he really connected to me and helped you know guide me through the emotional like struggles I would have when I'm a complete rookie with I had four LCS like ex LCS players on my team, and I'm expected to perform with these guys. It was like it was so crazy stressful, and my coach Deos on Dignitas, like I wouldn't have been able to get second place without my coach.
Okay, well, I mean, thanks for sharing that. So, look, I mean, I'm not looking for you to, throw anyone under the bus here, but I guess I'm just curious, like, how does a team, maybe how do you individually or how do you as a team, excuse me, get over this if there's some tension there, right? Like, okay, so some of your teammates are saying, "Hey, man, like you're not playing that well," or I don't know how they phrased it, if it was more mean than that or even nicer than that. But like, how do you guys get past that? How do you take that in individually and try to improve, or I guess do that together?
So for me, well, I'll give some more background. I've done kung fu for over 10 years. My shifu, my master, was really really hard on me. The learning experience was insanity to me. It was like pain every single class. Not that that was a good thing. My master like changed his teaching ways now, but when he first started, that's how it was for me. Pretty much, I could handle the feedback in the best way possible, by just like all I can really do is improve. If I don't improve, then I will never continue to be able to play in pro. I will never be able to compete with academy players, with LCS players, if I don't take their criticism to heart and really, change myself in a way where I can get better. Um, but again, my coach made a lot of this possible because there was only so much that I can improve on. Like with my like, and even then, as I was improving, I had a teammate, slamming desks every now and then when I made like a really bad mistake. And the only way we're able to really get through that is eventually we had like a face to face, like even if it was like the smallest, shortest, like not really realistic conversation. Like once we looked each other in the eyes, like we kind of realized like we shouldn't hate each other. We're on the same team. Like this is our team, and we are both
Right.
real people here. So our coach set that up, and it was like I feel like from then it wasn't the greatest experience, but it definitely was like 10 times better than what it was before.
Yeah, I mean, that seems like again, as you said, it seems like you had a really wise coach who, and like part of coaching, right? It's not just knowing a whole lot about like the subject matter itself, whether it's traditional sports or esports, but part of it is actually being able to make your team mesh, right? So
Right.
that sounds really cool. Okay, so last question I have, more geared towards being a pro before we talk about solo queue. Who in North America right now, in both Academy and in the LCS, would you say are the best players?
Yeah. So right now, I think that Blabber is one of the better junglers. For LCS. At some point, it was Inspired when he was here. I think Inspired is maybe like 1.5 times better than Blabber, but after Blabber, there's again a 1.5 times gap like between um, Blabber and the next jungler. But um, I just think Blabber's really consistent, and I think consistency is like key at the end of the day. Um, And for NACL or the Academy League, I would have to give it to Tomio. He's worked really hard for it. He obviously won twice in a row as well. People give him a lot of like backlash for what he does, for how he plays, for how he thinks. But I think that a year ago, all these allegations could be accurate, and he might not have been the best player, but he's worked hard to get to where he is now. Um, so
Okay,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. Thanks for sharing that. So that's actually a pretty good kind of transition into asking you a bit about solo queue because some of these questions are going to be geared towards like practice, right? Because it's not just at the end of the day, we're talking about a game, especially a solo queue ladder that has so many players that they're trying to improve, and whether you're bronze, silver, gold, platinum, I think one of the biggest questions that I've started to get recently from people is, well, how do I improve? What does it look like to practice this game, right? So I'm going to ask you this question, Perry. How do you practice League of Legends? Is it just playing the game? Do you do practice tool? Do you do drills? Do you watch videos? Kind of give us some insight there.
There is so much you can do, and there are so many resources out there, but always, always, always to begin with, you need the mindset. If you don't have the mindset to improve, you won't make it. And what I mean by the mindset is you gotta be okay with losing games. You gotta not tilt when you're playing. You got to hard focus on the small things to improve on, clearing your camps, how to set up gangs properly, how to collect information, whatever it is. You need to hard improve and focus on those things while you're playing. Forget about the tilting and forget about all that. But really, a lot of people like forget that, you know, you need to want to improve so badly that you don't care how boring it gets because it's boring.
Mm,
At the end of the day, doing the same thing over and over and over again does not seem fun to a lot of people. That's why League of Legends is a fun game for people because you can change your build. You can go different rune page. You can go different skill set. You can level this different abilities. You can change a champ, change a rule. But
right.
if you want to improve, you need to play the same champion. You need to go the same build. You need to do the same things. You need to become the best at what you currently know in order for you to grow. But it's impossible to coach, it's impossible to learn, it's impossible to improve when everyone is so focused on having fun and they can't handle the boredom of doing the same thing over and over again.
So when you say the boredom of doing the same thing over again, do you generally mean like, okay, you're going to play 20 games in a row of the same champion and play the same build, and you're going to, increase your champion mastery just through that type of raw repetition? Or are you referring to, drills that you do as well?
A bit of both. It depends on where you are at your champion. Once you understand your champion, yeah, it's time to drill. It's time to every single time you're done with your clear at 320, you're ganking a lane. Every single game, you're looking for it. Every single time at 220 after your third camp, you're drilling the fact that you should be looking at all three of your lanes after your level 3 to inspect to see if you can gank someone. It's these simple fundamental drills that you need to drill into yourself once you understand your champion that are super repetitive. Every single time you see their jungler, hold tab. Every single time someone shows on the map, hold tab, check their items, check their CS. It's the same steps. No matter where you are, no matter what elo you are, you just need to do the same things that'll help you get better. It doesn't change when you're a challenger going to a pro or a grandmaster trying to get challenger. It's the same fundamentals. The game stays the same.
Yeah, I think that's actually really important to point out. It's not like challenger players are doing something magical that no one else can achieve. Like you're not pulling information out of the clouds kind of thing, but rather
Yeah,
everything you're doing has been instilled in you over so many, such a long period of time, or, you've trained your brain in a sense to actually just be willing and ready to acquire this information that you need to like make the right decision, right? So, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So now for you, what are some of like, and this is more for your solo queue journey, right? As you look back and you think about when you started, maybe the first day you ever hit gold or the first day you ever hit plat or diamond or whatever it was, what were some of the biggest learning moments for you in your League of Legends journey?
I think that I just emphasize how important it is to, focus on the improvement process and not be bored. I think that one thing that helped me actually climb to begin with is you need to have fun. There's a fine line between like stressing yourself out, not enjoying the game, and wanting to quit the game, and then like you need to find the balance between these two things. You need to have fun and you need to also improve. Pretty much when I first hit diamond and platinum, it was a goal for me to just I liked the game. I played a good amount and I just wanted to be my brother's friends. Um, but at the end of the day, like what got me there was the enjoyment of climbing and um you know really just having fun. Um, I think that nowadays it's easier to actually like just improve straight up and just like climb ranks really fast. But when I was hitting the goal, when I was hitting platinum, I was also really young, and it was just like a fun experience overall. So
Yeah. I mean, that makes perfect sense to me. Again, like from my experience in traditional sports, you can't lose sight of the fact that at the end of the day, you're playing a sport, you're playing a game. And the reason why you started in many ways is because it was fun, right? It was something, kept you active or, you made friends along the way. Like at the end of the day, that's what it's about. So that makes perfect sense to me. Okay, I want to ask you some more specific questions, maybe about the ladder or about your experience with different players, because you yourself are a coach. I know on your YouTube channel that I'll get you to shout out later. You do coaching and you talk about educational stuff. So, my first question for you is, uh, this is more for me. This is a bit of a selfish question. I recently hit master for the first time. What is the biggest difference between a master player and a challenger player?
So we just talked about mindset. We just talked about having fun and whatnot. I think the difference is again how badly you want challenger. If at the end of the day you can set all of your hobbies aside, you do your day-to-day job or whatever it is, and you're just here to hit challenger, like you're in the right mindset. But most people don't. They're complacent with masters. They're happy with the grandmaster. They're happy with diamond. And the next thing is fundamentals, the basics. You need to drill the basics to again like to a point of boredom, to a point of where you like don't want to play the game anymore. But you can't lose sight that the whole point of this is so you become better than what you were the other day, and so you can hit challenger. Sometimes it's fun for people to grind and win games and become better, so you can hit something like challenger. But for a lot of people, it's too hard to do that because it gets really boring.
Sure. And I would you say that becomes more true the higher up the ladder you go because like the difference between say a low challenger player and a high challenger player are these like kind of minute things. Would you say that's true or maybe you disagree?
No, I think it stays true no matter where you are. I think as you get higher though, there are smaller things you can pinpoint, like, champion pools, like super basic habits that you have that, someone else might be doing. I think a big thing, just generally speaking, playing defensively versus aggressively is it might sound stupid, but like league players get bored, right? I'm emphasizing how people get bored. League players get bored. If you play defensively and you never engage with someone, and then they show up on your screen and you're still playing defensively, they will freak out and they will try and kill you. And if you're still playing defensively, you will oftentimes win the fight. It's like playing a chess game, and every time like you move a piece, it's just a defensive move. Like no one likes playing against that. And whenever like the player on defense takes a piece, the players on offense lose their mind even more. And if you keep playing defense, they'll just keep losing their mind. Um, I feel like that like piece of information really changes or changed my way of looking at the game. I had an experience with Core JJ when I was first, trying to go pro, make it a scouting grounds and whatnot. Um, Pretty much, I asked him a lot of advice when I was first starting, and in these analyses, I was playing bad, and I was like, "What should I do here? What should I do here, Core? Can you review me? Can you help me? Like, what do you think?" And every time, all he responded was, "Just play a natural game, just play normal, just natural jungle path." And I'm like, "Oh, should I path this way? Should I do that?" He's just saying, "No, just natural." And it only just now, like 2 years later, I understand what he's trying to say. It's just the game is not meant to be a stressful game. Jungling or any lane should not feel that stressful. If you do nothing for 10 minutes, but just full clear and farm as a jungler, you're winning the game. You're doing fine. You're doing great. But most people have this like misconception of what a jungler needs to do, what a laner needs to do, and they want to gank, and they want to get dragons, and they want to get herald, they want to get everything, and they aren't okay with losing. If they lose a single camp on their in their jungle, they will freak out. It's okay. There's the next camps to take. There's the fact that they're down tempo. There's the next dragon. There's the next herald. There's the next kill. The game goes on.
Right.
But it all comes down to just I feel like you need to play more defensively, no matter what elo you're in, and it'll carry you much higher. And once you have that as a fundamental, as your baseline, then you learn how to change your baseline to a more aggressive fundamental.
Okay, so basically what you're saying is you want to start and you want to play defensively from a baseline because it's easier in some sense to become more aggressive at the appropriate times. Whereas if you start from a place of aggression, it's much more difficult to kind of do the opposite. Is that what you're
Yeah,
saying?
yeah, that's correct.
Okay. So that's really interesting, and like I'm definitely learning a lot talking to you here because for me, I am that player where I start from a baseline of aggression. Like I'm an assassin jungle main, right? So
Right.
I play a lot of Shaco, I play a lot of Rengar, stuff like that. So I'm trying to invade. I'm trying to get aggressive. I'm trying to make the enemy uncomfortable. And yes, sometimes that can get me into trouble, right? And I think one of my biggest faults as a player is it when I do fall behind, especially on a champion like AD Shaco, for instance. It's like, oh man, how on earth am I going to come back in this game? So that's a very unique mindset. I'll definitely start to think about that one a bit more.
Yeah.
Uh,
I,
um, yeah,
yeah.
sorry.
Go ahead.
No. You go ahead. I was just gonna ask the next question, but if you have more, feel free.
No, I just wanted to comment on like something like AD Shaco. It's like yeah, like champions like that, like those are the archetypes where you don't like someone like you feel the need to be aggressive, you feel the need to invade. I'm telling you, on any of these champs, doesn't matter what champ you're playing, if you understand that the game doesn't end off one bad play, and on top of that, like you don't need to make so many plays in the game. If you make one or two plays throughout the entire 15 minutes, sometimes that's like completely fine. It's not always fine, but many games it is. If you like get to that understanding, that then I feel like you just feel like the game is a lot less stressful. There's a lot less worrying to do, and obviously, like the less stressful it is, the less tilting it gets, um, the easier it is mentally to kind of just like keep playing.
Sure. No, I think that is extremely valuable, and I'm sure a lot of people listening that will be novel. That's novel for me, honestly. I don't know if I've ever heard someone talk about that. So, yeah, thank you for sharing. Um,
Awesome.
okay, so I want to talk to you. Actually, let me ask one more question, more based on the solo queue experience, and then I want to talk to you a bit more pointedly about jungle itself. So, just because we're talking about a little bit about the difference between, I asked you the difference between master and challenger. We're talking about mindset. So, how do these things also translate between, you playing in champs queue or playing in your average challenger game to going into an actual professional environment? You know what I mean? Like, is the mindset the same? Um, what does it look like maybe to even jungle differently in a challenger game versus a professional game?
Yeah, so in the solo queue, in champs queue even, there's a lot more confusion, randomness, and just coin flip plays. In a competitive pro level, there's very, very few of that. Everything is projected, you could say. If there's a wave stacking and you feel like you're gonna get dove, you're gonna get dove. If there's an invade, you feel like you're gonna lose a camp, you're gonna lose your camp. The game is like super, like you can tell what's going on. It's almost as if you can see the next moves, and you need to figure out how to deal with the next move. But I think the biggest jump is really it is the mindset in a way where now that you're playing pro, it's less about improving and it's more about um well, it's always about improving, but it's more about like working with your team, finding what works for you, understanding like the team sense of how to like properly team fight, how to play macro as a team, how to communicate with your team. The skill sets you're learning to improve change entirely. And I came from a Kane one trick. I was a Kane one trick when I first hit Challenger. So when I first entered the pro scene, my fundamentals were very, very like off. And I was like a diamond player playing in Challenger leagues, where I'm supposed to be a Challenger player. But pretty much I had to readjust all the fundamentals, everything I knew to adapt to what the pro scene is. It's very, you're not gonna get random kills on Kane in a professional level game. Everything is again like almost cookie cut, like it's set in stone. This is how it goes. But in solo queue on Kane, obviously you're just gonna get a bunch of random kills. So
Right. Yeah. No, that makes perfect sense to me. And yeah, and I imagine that adjustment is probably very difficult. Um, okay, so now I want to ask you a bit more specifically about the jungle itself. You and I both play jungle. You're infinitely better than me, so I hope to learn from you. And I know a large part of like my content that I also do is jungle related, and a lot of the people in my audience are low elo junglers, right? So, um, I want to ask you because this is one thing that has been coming up a whole lot recently. Riot Freak stated that jungle requires about a 15% nerf or so to fall closer in line with the other roles.
I mean, ultimately, like, the role does have to be greatly nerfed. Like, I think just, like, factually, the role has to be greatly nerfed. It is about 20%, so as far as, like, we can measure, it's about 20% stronger as a role than other roles. 20, like, if we literally nerfed, like, the overall power of jungle by 15%, that would be probably about appropriate and fair.
What do you make of that? Do you agree with him? Do you disagree with him? I would love to get your take on that.
I think because it's solo queue, yes. But when you think about the pro scene, absolutely not. When it comes to the pro scene, jungle is one of the weakest roles. You don't get economy, your laners take your gold, you're just playing tank champs, you're a pig, pretty much. In solo queue, no one's playing the game accurately, and I don't expect anyone to, but laners are not respecting the junglers. And what happens is junglers take advantage of that and punish, and it makes jungle feel OP. But it will never change. Jungle will always feel OP because you have no obligation to clear waves. As a laner, you are obligated to clear a wave. I try to instill the fundamental that you always want to be on your camp respawn like 5 to 10 seconds after or even before it spawns. That's my like clearing wave correlation to fundamentals. But many people don't focus on that. They don't care about that. They don't care about the tempo, and they just will gank lanes. And it'll trigger people. It'll make people lose their minds. It'll get kills. It'll work. And that's how jungle becomes OP to everyone in the game. When in reality, you try playing like that in a challenger level game, in a pro level game, you were just like a chicken running around like entire map with your head off.
Right.
Like you're useless pretty much.
Okay. So if you had to rank then the power of each role in challenger, let's say, or just solo queue in general versus professional play, how would you do that? If you're saying like jungle's really weak, really strong in solo queue, but really weak in pro, give me an idea of where you think the rest of the roles are at in those circumstances as well.
Yeah, so in solo queue, jungle's the best role. In pro play, jungle's almost the worst role. I think. So we'll do is like after jungle and solo queue, you have support because again there's so much you can do. You can leave your ADC, you can impact the map everywhere. Mid lane because you can go to everywhere, you can interact with everything. Then I would say top lane, and then I would say ADC. And ADC and top lane I feel like are interchangeable, but just generally speaking, if you are able to, kind of get ahead in the top lane, you can impact the map if you understand macro. And in team fights, your champion is generally stronger than an ADC. But if I were to rank all these, like, so right now we have jungle, support, mid, top, and ADC. If I were to rank, like, if everyone was playing at their peak, even in solo queue, you go ADC from ADC being the worst to the best. A really good ADC versus a really good jungle support mid top is a huge difference. ADC being one of the hardest roles, one of the weakest roles. Once you become really good at that role, the role instantly becomes like its own section of how OP it is. But most people, it's hard. It's super hard role positioning, being a squishy, everyone wanting to kill you. Knowing when you can hit, when you can hit. It's generally speaking one of the hardest roles.
So
And then
yeah, I was just gonna say, does that mean, like, would you say in your experience in pro then, if ADC is that strong, do you think teams are often like, would you say there's a meta to play around the AD carry in many ways?
Yeah, that's what I was about to get to. So ADCs are the most broken role in pro play. Then following becomes mid lane. Then following becomes support. Then top. Then jungle. Top, jungle, support are all interchangeably like the dog roles. They just feed into the ADC at mid lane, and every now and then, if the top lane is a strong scaling champ like Gangplank or Jax or Fiora or something like that, then you'll play the top lane. But almost every single game, you're picking tank top, you're picking tank jungle, you're picking tank support, or whatever it is, and you're just playing to your mid and ADC. But ADC does all of a sudden become one of the best roles in pro play.
Okay, no, that's very interesting. This has been a debate that my friends and I have had for a while, so I'm glad to get a bit of an expert opinion, someone who's actually like experienced this, to settle it. So thank you for that. Okay, another question I have is, being that you're obviously so experienced in the jungle and now both professional play and solo queue, if you had to change one thing about the jungle, like, looking towards season 14, let's say, if Riot was going to change one thing to the jungle for season 14, what would you like done?
That is a very interesting question. I normally don't get myself into thinking about these things. I kind of just play the game. I play the game as Riot gives it to me. Um, but what I really would like to see, I mean, maybe there's like one or two things. It has to do with the camps itself. Pretty much, I feel like, well, I feel like they should ban people being able to check the camp timers. Um, I think it's too messed up. What I mean is like there's apps like Blitz.gg or whatever else that people use that can track, exactly when the camp respawns. I think that just needs to be flat removed. Um, and I think on top of that, there's a yellow like hourglass that spawns when you're just like 10 seconds away from a camp.
Mhm.
I feel like they should add it, make it 20 seconds, give it more time so people can learn that way versus like having to rely on a crutch like jungle tracking with another app. Pretty much, I just want like the emphasis on camp respawns to be super super clear. Um, the last thing is um, jungle items. I understand that the mythic system and all this is like unique and it's cool and it was great for a while, but honestly, I miss the old mechanic of jungle items. Um, it was just so much more fun. Um, there was like there wasn't much going on at the time. I guess there weren't pets or anything, but to be able to go like a different type of jungle item with a different type of like stat line that you'd get felt really unique, felt really cool. That like there's like it's like a jungle specific thing. It's almost like support has their own support item, and they get support items to build. I just want that for jungle. I wish they added that back. Like just give me some jungle items I could build. It feels better. It feels cool. Makes my role kind of a little more unique.
Yeah. Okay. I actually really like that. I was trying to picture what you were saying, but when you related it to the support items, that makes perfect sense to me. Like you almost have one AD, one AP, one for more, I guess, damage based, one for more maybe like tank based. Yeah, that would make perfect sense to me. Okay,
Yeah.
talking about the different kinds of jungles that we could see or we have seen. What was your favorite season to jungle in?
Um, it's an interesting one. I would say probably season what 2 years ago? So season 11, season 11 or season 10 were like my favorite. I would say. I feel like since then the game has either like the patches have either like felt really underwhelming or just like flat out the game is just like either easier or less fun or just the jungle rule is just it's just less entertaining really. It's less there's less going on. But back then I don't know, I just feel like there was more to do.
In what way? Like what exactly about the game was different that there was more to do? I'm just trying to understand a little bit more of what you're saying.
Maybe my I'm remembering things wrong, but I just feel like they're like the build paths, right? Um, I'm not sure what was going on with the dragons and whatnot, but I think that the dragons were pretty static. Um, it just realistically, it just felt like camps weren't so like much of like a conversation. Really, it was kind of just like find good opportunity with lanes and gank, and just make like good jungle plays overall that like the enemy laners won't expect. But nowadays, like there is like maybe that's just with the game being like grown. It's been like 2 3 years from now, but like at that time, I just feel like you could do so many creative things, and it would work and it would feel cool, would feel amazing. But nowadays, it's just like there's not much creativity going on. It's kind of just like everyone knows the paths, everyone knows everything, and
Sure.
it's really obvious what it goes on. So
Right. I remember Riot kind of saying towards the beginning of season 13 that they wanted to make jungle more appealing to a wider audience, and so they kind of made it, I guess, easier to get into. Like, if you had never jungled before, if you're autofilled in the jungle, it wouldn't be so hard just to figure out what you're doing, right? So maybe that's part of it. I don't know. So what would you say if we're talking like, I mean, I guess you can split this up however you want, but Again, most of the junglers that I interact with and talk to or reach out and ask questions, they are like emerald or below, right? So what would you say for that group of junglers? What are maybe one or two major things that you consistently see that they need to work on?
Right, so I'm gonna plug myself real quick. I made a jungle cheat sheet recently, and I wrote about, from Iron to Emerald, like what I feel like are the most important things. But overall, like the overarching theme of every kind of coaching session I've done, every single time I try to teach fundamentals, is you need to do the basic things, which is collect information. There's a master player I've been coaching, there's like a high diamond player I've been coaching, like all these guys and a bunch of people in Emerald. None of them accurately collect information like every like 20, 10, 20, 20 to 30 seconds. It's always like a minute 30, or they're just not looking at all. If you are not looking at your lanes, if you are not collecting HPs, ults, flashes, waves, where the jungler is, any of these things, how can you make good decisions? It's actually mind blowing to me that, like, if I were to put myself in their position and play the game with the information like they gave me in the moment, I actually wouldn't be able to make decisions. I would have no idea what to do. So when people ask, am I supposed to gank? Am I supposed to farm? I genuinely can't answer because there was no information gathered. I feel
Right.
like that's the biggest thing that needs to like change is the fact that people aren't, understanding what's going on with waves, understanding what's going on in the lanes. The laners, all they're focused on are the waves. The waves, the HP, like that's what's going on. As a jungler, clearing camps is not that difficult. You play 100 games, 50 games, you'll understand how to clear on your champion. From there, all it is understanding how this laner is like looking at their wave, how this laner is, looking at, slow pushing, crashing, freezing, whatever it is, and you being there to decide if you can impact it. Um,
Right, right,
but
right.
for Emerald people below, any elo really, you need to collect the information.
Okay. That's fantastic advice. Okay. The last question I have for you is, and in a way, I'm still trying to figure out how to word this, but I'm sure you'll probably understand what I'm getting at. For you, someone that is a pro, you've been challenger for a long time. Like you again, you've played at these high levels. You've been around people who've played at these high levels for a long time. This is your life. This is your job. I, as someone myself who is not I do not have the experience that you have, but I do try to make educational content for League. One thing that I find very interesting is the whole coaching scene in League of Legends is very weird to me. Like the whole challenger coaches stuff. There seems to be a lot of bickering. There seems to be a lot of drama that goes on. There seems to be a lot of like, I'm better than you. No, I'm better than you. No, I've had a higher peak than you. A lot of this type of stuff. What do you sense that same toxicity going on in the League educational scene? If not, what is your assessment of the League educational scene? Do you think it's a good place right now? Do you think it's moving towards a good place? Just give me your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I think the people who are targeting actual education over content are really providing a lot of valuable information. To some extent, although those people who are pushing out a lot of educational content are eventually becoming sellouts. Like almost all of them, at some point, a lot of their content was very, helpful and really, really useful. But then it kind of feels like they're not putting as much effort. It's repetitive, and they're just trying to get views, get people to get on their program. But every now and then, you get the results, and the results mean a lot. So if it works, it works. I just feel like content being reused, like I might find that struggling and well in the future, but that's what I've been seeing a lot. And when it comes to the toxicity, I think most of it comes from a content creator or high level challenger player entering the coaching scene and not really knowing like how it really works. Like it doesn't matter how good or bad a coach is if the coach is helping someone positively and they're getting results. It doesn't matter. I know Nice charges a lot, and I know some people judge his way of coaching, but if it works for his students, it works at the end of the day. Everyone likes to get taught differently. Everyone learns differently. Everyone gets different things. And I think at the end of the day, like if you're here putting in educational content, you're providing value for the people consuming, and that's what really matters. So most of the time, it's like really toxic people in solo queue or just toxic for fun content creators who come in and kind of shed a bad light on the educational space because they have a bigger following. But for the most part, I think the educational space is like a really, really positive and amazing community. So.
Well, that is awesome to hear, and like I've really appreciated you taking the time just to chat with me for a while. So why don't you go ahead and plug yourself? Like, why don't where can people find you? Your YouTube, any other social medias? Where can they find your content?
Yeah, so everything is pretty much Perryjg. If you don't see Perryjg, you'll see Perryjg lol. Perryjg lol is everything I got. I wanna also plug the jungle cheat sheet I made recently. I just posted it, on Reddit and whatnot, and it seems like a lot of people are very happy with what I've created. But yeah, I mean, thanks for listening to me, guys. Really, it was fun doing this interview. So.
All right, thank you, Perry.
Off to shove in, they could probably get a Nexus turret before everyone spawns. Perry's jumping onto the wave, trying to stop it from getting in here. Team Liquid say, we're ignoring him. Tristana damage to turrets, to structures is too strong, but the minions have spawned. So
my
the fear.
God.
They got Mir, they got Kim down. Perry saving the game as Arrow can't get through the game.